Adeline, how are you doing? Should we get started on some chapter 10? How about we do that? Some chapter 10 homework. I'm so busy. I haven't even been able to eat my sandwich. Mackenzie, good to see you. Are we gonna do some chapter 10 quiz? How does that sound to people? We could do the Canvas content. We can do the chapter 10 quiz. There's a lot of questions on this. What do you want to do? Tell me what the question looks like. Let's do it. Okay. Here we go. I'm still catching up on sleep from bashing my finger in. I didn't see. Let me click. I hit my finger with the way you can see there. You can see this finger right there. That finger. Luckily it's fine. It's not broken or anything, but it's purple. It's a little sore. Yeah, so I've been getting. The first night I did it, I got like 3 hours of sleep. That was Sunday night, and then I've been getting more sleep. I've been like catching up. So I've been like going on walks, like wake up and drinking more caffeine. That's good, right? Drink a bunch of caffeine. Which question should we do? My sleep schedule got destroyed because I was like, my finger hurts. I can't sleep. I can't sleep because I don't know how to lift weights. I can't lift weights. This one's a good one right here. I like this one. What's this one say? Let's do chapter 12. Let's do some multiple choice ones to start. We'll warm up with that. So stat 201, chapter 12, quiz. Multiple choice. We'll do that one next. You got it, Brooke. Here, we'll do some multiple choice ones. See if you can help me out with this. Yeah, let's do some practice. Brooke, hello. Good to see you. 5,000 points in the chat. We'll do the managers at a large company here after a few multiple choices. I've got it copied next on the list. So the average of your sample is a what? Is it a parameter? Is it a statistic? Is it a sample? Is it a population? The average of your sample would be a what? If you don't have the answers up, don't worry, but just think what it would be. The average of your sample would be a what? Would it be a parameter? Because this is of a sample. So you want to write down SSPP. So the average of your sample would be a what? Don't worry, it's going to say something a little bit more than what I'm going to say. It'd be a sample statistic, and it would be a statistic. The keyword that we'll need is statistic. Good answers in the chat. It is a statistic, and so there is the statistic part. It is a sample statistic, so samples give statistics. So it is a statistic to estimated population parameter. We'll do just a few more multiple choices, then we're going to hop to Brooke's question next. You're doing a large study on nonprofits. Suppose you know, and this is a fact. So that's the key right here, that 14.2% of children live in poverty. Now, that's not from a sample. So this 14.2% is known as a what? So this is a fact about it. It's a truth, which makes it a this. If this is a truth about 14.2% of children live in poverty, and that's for all children, that 14.2% would be P, and P is a what? I'm going to bring up the notes right here real quick. 2 seconds. P is a what? It's population parameter. Exactly. Great answers right there. Really good part of the notes. Where's my chapter 10 notes? Let me go to really? I do it and then it disappears. Chapter 10 notes. It is a population parameter. I'm going to pull up the chapter 10 notes in the background here. So here are the chapter 10 notes, and this is a population parameter. So that's what this is covering. We'll just do like 2 or 3 more because we're just kind of burning through these real quick. Population parameters are noted right here, and that was giving you P right there, which is a population parameter. Population parameters are truths about a population. So it is the parameter right there. So it's a truth about the population, where the previous one said you take the average of a sample. So that'd be the sample mean. It would be Y bar right there, the sample mean. And let's do 2 more right here. Let's see if we got any more multiple choice. That's a big multiple choice. Here we go. A friend of your class decides to sample students. They sample 50 freshmen, 50 sophomores, 50 juniors, 50 seniors to be representative and acknowledge differences. This is very clearly a what sampling strategy. Don't click the answer, see if you know it. So you need to go back to the sampling strategies we wrote down today in class. And which one is it? We wrote down some notes today in class, and we have the different sampling strategies right here. Some really amazing notes right there. So they sample 50 sophomores, 50 juniors, 50 seniors. Which sampling strategy is it? Once again, if you can do these without clicking the answers, that's even better. And then we're going to do one more after this, and we'll do the question. So which one is this? Which sampling strategy is it when they sample 50 freshmen, 50 sophomores, 50 juniors, 50 seniors? Which one is it? Who knows in the chat for some points? It is stratified because they're acknowledging a difference in sampling based on class level. That is 100% stratified sampling right there. You are 100% right. That is stratified. So good work. Here's the last one, then we'll hop to the manager of a large company. Some of your friends in a political class are angry about restricting off-campus parties. They make an online survey. So they're going to say to, hey, people, take our online survey. What kind of bias would this be hit by? So take our online survey. What kind of bias would this be hit by? You could maybe mention a few, but I'll give it away if I give this away. If I say this, then it'll make the answer too easy. What kind of bias are they doing by putting an online survey and just saying, take it? It can be hit with voluntary, and the answer might be voluntary if this doesn't exist. Voluntary is when people with strong opinions, and there probably will be some voluntary bias, but putting surveys online is usually in essence of convenience bias because you're just getting people very easily. And Brooke right there, great answers. It's kind of, I hate that because voluntary and convenience kind of go hand in hand. I'd go with convenience bias right there. So convenience bias is convenience sampling. And also it helps that voluntary wasn't in here. I do agree it could be a little bit of voluntary, but the hallmark of convenience sampling or convenience bias, because it's not a good way to sample, it's a bias sampling. So if you do convenience sampling, it is a bias sample. It's not a random sample. That is not a random sample. It's not done right there. Okay, that was some good quick questions right there. Wait, do we have one more? We already did this one. It's over here at the end too. Well, now we've done a lot. Manager at a large company. 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 The managers of a large company. The managers. The managers. Here we go. Okie dokie. We got this. Examine each of the following for possible bias. Yeah, I think you got it, Mackenzie. Let me put the timestamp on this question right here. Okay, the managers. And you'll go right here. Okay. So with this right now, we are looking at the managers of a large company wish to know the percent of employees who feel extremely satisfied to work there. The company has roughly 38,000 employees. The company is considering ways to survey the employees. For each of the designs proposed, identify the problem. So hopefully there is a problem here. Leave a stack of surveys out in the cafeteria so they can pick them up when they return. Stuff a questionnaire into each mailbox with the request that they fill it out and return it. Okay. I think there's only one problem with each of these, which I hate that they do multiple choice boxes. And this one is rude. How rude, to quote Full House. Because I've gotten it wrong before, and I think it's a little unfair. Hence, we're doing it here so you'll get to see the right answer. Once again, you have to think we're leaving out the surveys in an area, and it's kind of like questionnaires, like a restaurant. So you know which one I'm leaning towards? Which one am I leaning towards between voluntary and convenience? We're leaving out surveys in a crowded area and asking people to fill it out. So we're just putting out surveys and say, hey, if you got an opinion, fill it out. I'm leaning towards this. Yeah, I'm leaning towards voluntary. It could say we're wrong. It could be convenient because they just did it in an easy way. But probably the people with the strong opinions are going to respond. And that's what you need to know for the test. Like if you think, yeah, I can see both being correct. It's not both, though. I'm pretty sure I've done this one a ton of times, and it's just one of them. So I'm pretty sure, and you'll get to see the right answer here. The next one could be what? And I don't see it. Convenience means they're doing it an easy way. Response bias means the way they worded the questions, but we have nothing indicating the questions are worded oddly or they're pushing people towards a way. Voluntary bias means people with strong opinions are more likely to respond than people with not opinions. But we're actually putting the mailbox, we're putting it into everyone's mailbox and request that they fill it out and return it. There could be some voluntary bias still. I do agree. But this is much better than just leaving a stack out in the cafeteria. 0. What? Is this going to be voluntary bias? Am I going crazy today? Really? They wanted both? I hate this question. They should never do a multiple choice. I know I've done this question a lot. Sorry. Brian got a question wrong. Let's throw some 5,000 points in the chat. We would not word test questions like this. And they should not do a multiple choice if there's only one choice. In my personal opinion, never do a multiple choice. Like I literally said, what did I say about this, about putting the questionnaires in each person's mailbox? What did I say about it? We could get people with strong opinions. It said nothing about the way in which the questionnaire was worded. This one is a little bit more convenient, I do admit. As we were saying, it's much more convenient to just put out a stack in the cafeteria than it is to go to everyone's individual mailbox and do it. So I get what they're getting at, but they should be more like specific. They should say, check the 2 that would apply. Obviously, there's no problems. Once again, response bias is not, they don't tell you what the questions are. Response bias is when the questions, when they're worded a certain way or the researcher acts a certain way, which elicits a certain response. Like when we say, given that Tennessee has had an amazing season, do you think they'll win the NCAA tournament? So what would be the correct way to word that question? Instead of given that Tennessee has had an amazing season, do you think they'll win the NCAA tournament? How should we word it? Which is the next thing we're going to do is look at questions for bias. How should you word that question? I think it always does the same. Leave a stack out in cafeteria. There we go. Voluntary. So given that Tennessee has had the most amazing season ever, do you think they'll win? What would it be? Should just ask what? Because that's bias right there to say, given Tennessee's had the most amazing season ever, do you think they'll win? Should just ask, do you think Tennessee will win? That's all we need to ask. Let's do examine each of the following for bias. Ooh, there's some A&M right there. Given that Tennessee has won it. Well, exactly. So Adeline, a good question, Adeline, 5,000 points. We wouldn't want to give the given part of it. That's all bias. We just want to say, do you think Tennessee will win this year? Because then we're not like prefacing it with like, hey, they've had this great season. Remove all the bias and just say, do you think Tennessee will win this year? And then someone just gives their true opinion. You're not like, hey, Tennessee's had a great season. Do you think they'll win? You don't want to push them in any way right there to do that. And I think we found the next question. Yeah, you say, hey, you think Tennessee's going to win? Or you don't say, Tennessee's really awesome. That's bias. Bias is presenting it in a way that does not push anyone towards an answer. That's response bias, is when you present a question in a way that doesn't push anyone towards an answer. Do you think high schoolers should be required to wear uniforms? That doesn't indicate too much bias. Let's see what they're saying. I think this is almost no bias, given humanity's great tradition of exploration. So that's like telling you we should continue. The question is biased towards yes. The second one's pretty obvious because we're saying like we have a great tradition of exploration. Don't you think we should keep doing this? So the question may be biased towards yes because great tradition of exploration would be, do you favor continued funding for the space program? That's good. Do you favor continued funding? A better question would be no. So it's this one. A better question would be, given humanity's great tradition of exploration, no. Just all we should ask them is, do you think we should fund the space program? Just remove out that whole given part. The first one looks to have no bias. I'm a little worried, though. I get one wrong, and I start overthinking it. So do you think high schoolers should be required to wear uniforms? You could say, do you think high schoolers should wear... required is almost needed in there because, yeah. The question may be biased because it does not provide enough context about preferences. Better question would be, do you agree with most people in high school? Do you agree with most people? No, you shouldn't ask, do you agree with most people? That's horrible. The question may be biased if it does not provide enough context about uniform. Better question would be, most of the uniforms today are comfortable. No, that's biasing towards people to, wear uniforms. The question may be biased towards high school students because it is listed first. Better question would be, do you think that wearing uniforms is required for high school students? If they're going with that, they are getting so picky. The question may be biased towards high school students. Better question would be, do you think that wearing uniforms is required? Please tell me they're not going with C. Man, I really didn't see any bias in that first one. If you wanted to bias the question, you could say, it's been shown that uniforms decrease distractions in classrooms. Like, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just making up a fact. That's what we do, right? It's been shown that uniforms decrease distractions during the learning environment. Do you think we should require high school students to wear uniforms? You could bias it towards yes if you said that. Or you could say, it's been shown that children learn worse due to lack of creativity if required to wear uniforms. Do you think we should require uniforms? And then you're biasing people towards no. You don't want to add these extra portions to questions. It's a horrible idea. And doing that, it's a bad idea. Brooke, we got that. Let's do it right here. For your political science class. We don't want to bias people. We want to take data unbiased. So basically, simple, exactly. Adeline, right there, you get it. That's the whole point of taking surveys. You'd be shocked how many surveys are really biased when you look at them, that they're pushing people in a direction because the researchers want to publish a certain... I'm not saying like all research does that, but just a lot of polling survey, and that's not really research, that's just like polling surveys, are often like, just look at the group behind it and then look at the questions and you'd be like, I see they're pushing. I'm not even saying like for or against anything. It's just very common that questions are written in a way to interject a little bit of response bias to like almost, have people, like the way you phrase something, whether you call it the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, will bias people towards liking it or not liking it. So, because some people want, just, I'm not saying pro or against any of it, but just the way it's worded will push people in a way for or against. Does that make sense, Adeline, right there? Like, if you call it the Affordable Care Act or you call it Obamacare, I can't even speak today, that'll create different ideas in people's minds, even though they're often said to be synonymous right there, because the Affordable Care Act, I think 2008 or so, those things right there, people should register them as the same thing, but it creates bias. People are like, wait a minute, now I feel this way. And it's like, it's the same thing. And so people do it all the time, and I hate it. We're not here to collect bias data. We're here to truly understand what people believe. It drives me crazy. Where is the 4-year? Wait, did we do it? Did we do the 4-year political science class? Am I missing the number? Does anyone see the number for your political science class? Am I just going crazy? Drop another question if you want. I'm not seeing the 4-year political science. They'll chase some of these right here. We found it. Got it. Okay. Let's put the right timestamp on this. Right timestamp. Thank you, Adeline. Really good job. This chapter, the test is easier than the chapter. This chapter is all note cards. Let me repeat that again here to start the question. This chapter is all memorization of terms and then using the terms in examples. So with this right here, they're going to get complicated on us really quickly, I bet. For your political science class, you'd like to take a sample from a sample of all practicing people of Hindu, the Hindu religion in your region. A list of places of worship shows 8 Hindu temples in the area. Rather than try to obtain a list of all members of the temple, you decide to pick 4 temples at random. For these temples, you will go to the temple and interview the first 100 people you see. This is a really weird sampling method. So they're using the temples as clusters, and then they're interviewing the first 100 people they see, which is a what sample, which does put some bias in there. So what do you think? It's A, B, C, or D? They are doing what? They are doing what right here? A, B, C, or D? They're interviewing the first 100 people they see. So this will be biased. So it is a cluster sample, but it's not just a cluster. They're interviewing the first, because when you do a cluster, you're supposed to talk to everyone at the temple. So that is where you'd speak to everybody, but they're doing a what afterwards? A, B, C, or D? Well, it's not A because they're doing a multi-stage. Multi-stage is just when you do multiple things. So which one would it be? A, B, C, or D? Don't worry if you're wrong. Good guess. Good guess, Brooke, right there. I'll give you 5,000 points for that. It is C, though. It is C. It is convenient sampling. Convenient sampling is when you get the first and easiest things to access. So the first 100 right here makes it a convenient sample. If they did a simple random sample within each cluster, then they would take 100 random people. If they did a systematic, they would talk to maybe every 10th person walking in, but they talked to the first 100 people making a convenient sample. And so really the problem I see right here with this is the first 100 people are probably not representative of all people. The members sampled may not be representative of all members. Using the sample size for large and small samples could introduce bias. So one of the temples you pick may not be representative of all temples. What temples you may temples using sample size? Well, man, they really want to get specific on this. The members sampled may not be representative of all members. Using the sample size for large and small temples could introduce bias. The member sampled may not be representative of all members. Using the same sample size for large and small temples could introduce bias. So actually, they're getting into an idea of stratification. I really wish they fully explained that. I'm pretty sure that's the answer right there. Because here's, and I should get 150. Really? It is this one. I really don't like the way they phrase that. The members sampled may not be representative of all members. I want to yell at my Pearson. This answer down here on D. Yeah, this should be D should be the answer. I might have to destroy this question. I'm actually very unhappy about D being the answer because I want to explain why. So with the temples, what it's trying to point out right here is you've got Madra House. You got a bunch of temples in your region. Does that make sense? But some of the temples might be wetter than others. Some of these temples might be wetter than others. Very clearly, some of these temples might be wetter. This is a bad question. Bigger. So with some of the temples being bigger and some being smaller, just imagine they're churches. If you go to a church of 100 people and you take all 100 people from that church and you go to a big mega church right here and take 100 people, what kind of bias would you be introducing if you're suddenly making assumptions about these groups and the religion in your area? If you go to the church with 40,000 people and you take 100, and you go to the church with only 100 people and you take all 100, what kind of bias would you be introducing? And these are the key things to know, especially for the test. What kind of bias would you be doing? Because you're like, wow, everyone is like, a lot of people in my area are part of a very small religious group. They don't really go to the mega church. They, what kind of bias are you introducing here? So think of what bias it is. Sometimes I wonder who writes these questions. The math stuff's easy because math is math. The theory stuff, not well. So if, as the question says, we're talking to the first 100, but think about this. If you talk to only 100 people at the big church and you talk to all 100 at the small church, what kind of bias are you introducing? Here's the possible answers right here. You've probably wutted the large church. You've probably wutted the large church because there's more people in your area who go to the big church. You took 100 from me. Not even I like it right there, and I hit a new document or something. And once you saw it, you're like, oh, you're undercovering the large church. And that's why I said, what the answer I said is we should probably try to figure out the right amount to sample, which means stratification, which means we'd probably take maybe 5% of the people in each church because each church is going to have different views. So we'd probably stratify by church. So the correct answer would be to probably stratify by church, like take 5% of the people in each church and talk to them, a random sample of 5% of people. So just the way they phrase that. Yeah. So does that make sense right there, Brooke? What other questions do we have? Which ones are there? It's the math stuff that is nice. Math stuff is nice. This one shouldn't be too bad right here. We'll do the Texas A&M administers. Let's do some administrators at the Texas A&M University. Okay. Administrators at the Texas A&M University were interested in estimating the percent of students who are the first in their family to go to college. The A&M University has about 42,000 members. For each sections A through C, identify the sampling used by each group. Several dormitories are selected at random, and everybody is contacted. What is the answer? You should know this one like that. So think about the key characteristics. Several dormitories are selected, and everybody is spoken to in the dormitory. Did I lose my sheet? Did I erase it? Several dormitories are selected, and everyone is contacted inside of that dorm. There's the ways to do sampling. Several dormitories are selected, and everybody in the dorm is spoken to. Yeah, I'll do that one next year, Mackenzie. You got it. Several dormitories are selected. and everyone in that dormitory is talked to. So what would it be? Several dormitories are selected. It is cluster. Because if you see right here, things are randomly put into clusters. That might be true, but we do a census on each of the clusters. So we do a census on each cluster, so it's very clearly a cluster sample. Used a computer-based algorithm to select 200 freshmen, 200 sophomores, 200 juniors, 200 seniors. Very clearly a what sampling strategy? Very clearly a what sampling strategy? This is a perfect question. This is perfect. This is like how test questions look. So this one says we're going to take 200 of each group. This one, you should know why, because we're doing what to start. We're taking 200 of each group, so which one is it? 200 of each group. Very, very clearly what? What? 200 of each group is selected. Very, very clearly what? So we're taking 200 of each group. Don't worry about being wrong, just take guesses. You take 200 freshmen, 200 sophomores, 200 juniors, 200 seniors, and they have to think which of these applies. It is stratified. We are acknowledging a difference, and then we're sampling according to that difference. So then you just take two. This is where you acknowledge like difference in class level, and then you randomly sample within each of it to find 200 random. It's not a multi-stage because you have to get the sample somehow. So we call it stratified. The next one's even easier. You select a random name out of the first 20, and then select every 40th name later. Very clearly what? Select a random name on the first 20 names, and then select every 40th name after that. Very clearly what? Does the specific number matter? Good question, Mackenzie. I'll explain that right next. You got it. Really good question there. I'll explain that just for a moment. What is this last one? So the last one said, we're going to pick a random name and then select every 40th name after it. We're going to go to a random student. What would this last one be? And I'm going to use some information over here next. Not cluster. Good guess. Not a cluster. The last one, when you select a random name, you're selecting out a random starting point and then going to every 40th student after. We throw some points right there. So you pick a random name and then go to every 40th name after. That is going to be systematic right there. Systematic. So the th on it right there, the kth observation, every blank observation is the key for it. So I want you to consider this right here. If we want to sample 200 students, how many in-state students should we sample using the information up above? If we want a sample size of 200, how many in-state students should we sample? No worries, Darius. Thank you, Darius, right there. 5,000 points, Darius. We all need stats in our life. If you want to sample, I saw some guys filming, and I was like, hey, what are you guys filming for? And they're like, we're just here filming. And I was like, oh, are you guys with that event? Are you guys with the street preacher? Who's here? I was like, with Kirk or with the bowling? And they're like, we're here filming. I was like, oh, for what for? And they're like, here filming. I was like, okay. It's like random filming, guys. I was like, I was just, yeah, you film whatever you want, guys. I don't care. They didn't want to talk to me. And I was like, that's fine. You can film. Public. I was just wondering. Don't you see a lot of cameras pointing random directions? Just kind of wondering. Guess I'm on camera saying that, right? I know, Merritt McKenzie. I was like, oh, this is random. You bought on the randomness right there. I'm all about, I think you should have good conversations with people and get to know people and understand people. And I like one-on-ones. And like, I'm like, well, those guys film me questioning them about the camera. They're like, this guy walked up to us and was like, why are you filming? I don't know. I was just wondering. I said, hey to the police. I was like, hey, guys. And they're like, hey. I was like, ah. I appreciate, I don't know. Everything should be nice and civil and respectful. That's what I try to do. That's what we all should be. I was like, these guys don't want to talk to me. Top secret, Darius. I don't know. They weren't pointed at the event even. It'd be obvious if they were pointing at the event. Like, if they were, like, down there and they were, like, pointed at the event, I'd be like, oh, they're filming the event. But I was like, What are they? Yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, that's what, you film what you want. You film what you want. This guy came up and asked us why we were filming. I don't know. I talk to people. anyways. Mackenzie's cracking me up right there. Okay, so if we have a size of 63% of undergraduate students from Tennessee and we sample 200 students, then how many in our sample should be from Tennessee? This is where we're stratifying. So we're going to be like, okay, wait, we want to make sure we get enough undergrads from Tennessee and enough undergrads not from Tennessee. How should our sample size be? How should our sample size be? Thoughts? So Mackenzie was asking earlier, where do we get these percentages from? Well, think if we're going to take 200 students, here, I'll make it really easy. If we talk to 100 students, how many students should be from Tennessee? Now it's really easy. 63% of students are from Tennessee at University of Tennessee, from in-state. So how many of the 100 students that we sample should be from Tennessee? 63. And then we would get 37 who are not from. So if you were to go back here and say 200, then how would you figure out how many to sample who are Tennessee students and not Tennessee students? This is how we stratify. We acknowledge a difference and we say 63% of students are in-state and the other 37% of students are out-of-state. So when we take our sample, how should we sample the 200 students? Well, 63% of our sample should be Tennessee students because it's representative of the population. That way we don't undercover people. This is why we stratify, to make sure we acknowledge differences. So how many people now should be Tennessee students when we take sample? So we'd kind of make sure this. We would take samples, and so be like, I want to take your survey. Be like, are you a Tennessee student? Be like, no. And be like, oh, good. We need more non-Tennessee students because we got to make sure we have enough in our sample of non-Tennessee students and Tennessee students. So how many would be TN students and how many would be not TN students? How many students would be TN students and how many students would be not TN students? Yep. 126, and all you're doing is 200 times 0.63. 63% of your sample would go down to here, and the other 37% would go over here, which is going to be the remaining 74 students. There you go. Does that make sense? That's how you stratify, is you acknowledge a difference and you say, well, and you might have to figure out the percentages on your own. Great job, Mackenzie, right there. Does that make sense with stratification, how we do it? To say like, well, 63% of students are from the University of Tennessee, so are from Tennessee. So we're going to make sure our sample looks this way. And this is not cluster because we're not taking all Tennessee students. We're not taking all non-Tennessee students. We're taking representatively from each group. So it's just making sure you properly get the right amounts. Yeah, Mackenzie, good question. It's when you start to wonder these things that you really learn it. So you have to ask the questions like, wait, how would this work in practice? You're welcome. Thank you for really good questions. Okay, we got to consider each of the situations below. Okay, consider each of the situations. Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, this one's fun. You got to know about the yellow pages on this one, which are so old now, like me. Here we go. Yellow page question. We want to know what % of local doctors accept Medicare patients. We call 50 doctor pages randomly selected on yellow pages. Rip yellow pages. Does anyone know how you get into the yellow pages? You have to what? Because it's what? It's not the white pages. It's the yellow pages. Why do we call it yellow pages? I guess it was like a color. I don't know, like maybe a cheap thing to color them yellow. Like we did like the blue. You can't read the ink if it's blue. It might be online now, but you have to pay to be in the yellow pages. So phone books back in the day, you take a phone book and drop it down. You open that phone book up, start going through it. Phone books back in the day had the yellow pages, and the yellow pages were ads. So this method is probably not appropriate because we would undercover people who don't purchase ads. So, you're going to find out the doctors who are more likely to be paying for ads if they're more likely to accept Medicaid. So that's kind of meh. We want to know what % of local businesses anticipate their stocks to fall in the upcoming month. We randomly select a page in the... Wait, is this not the same thing? Let's see. Oh, we select a page. That's what it is. We randomly select a page on the yellow pages. This question is also kind of... because I think in the yellow pages, they're sectioned off by businesses. And so if you open up a page in the yellow pages, you might be in the, I don't know, the candy store section. I like candy. And you would then only be surveying people on that page. So we select a page is the problem. So they've put some real bias by saying go to a page and call every business. They're actually doing a what sample on that page. They're using that page for 5,000 points as a what. Hint, they're calling every business on that page, and that's a problem because these were not randomly put on that page. They are calling every business on that page. That page is a what of businesses right now. That page is a what of businesses. Oh, my mom's calling. I'll call her back in a little bit here. That page is a what. It is a sample, but what kind of sample, Mackenzie, right there? It is a what sample of businesses. So they're calling every business on that page. Every business on that page. So they're calling all businesses. It's a bad version of this. It's a bad version of this. Like they're not doing it properly because they didn't do the first part of it. So it's a bad version of it. They're calling every business on a page. Good guess. It's not always on systematic. Look for the kth element. So for systematic, but since they're calling every business on the page, they are doing a cluster sample. And that kind of goes back to class with the bad clustering ID, like talking to all UT fans right there. If you talk to all UT fans, this is not good random clusters. So the pages right here are not random pages. The pages are inherently biased towards certain businesses because the yellow pages is filtered by business. Like you'd have one business and another business. Like type of business, I mean. So you could have like candy stores and clothing stores and, charcuterie board stores. We're in the C's right now. So the sampling method would probably contain listings for one or two types of business, resulting in undercoverage of other businesses. So the only problem with this question is the knowledge of the yellow pages to properly answer it. That if you take a page of the yellow pages, you're probably going to get a lot of the same types of businesses and undercover other businesses because you're taking a cluster sample of the page. And so with systematic, always look for that kth element. So whenever you see kth for systematic, like every 10th person or 5th person, does that make sense, Mackenzie? That's a huge thing to review right there. Let me 35,000 more points. Great job reviewing here. Any more questions? We've done a few today. What other questions are there? What other questions? What other questions? Any more? To finish, can we do that? Yeah, Major League Baseball. Yeah, it's about the drug testing one, right? That one's a little tricky too. We did this one last time. So we've done a lot of these now, which is really good. Major League Baseball. For the following examples are pretty crazy. They're pretty long. I'm going to sleep right here. Take a little nap. Wake up. Wake up. What does that one say? You recently got a local internship concerning you conduct a survey on telephone. What are possible sources of bias? I mean, would it not be? Yeah. I mean, surveys can have any bias. Like, what kind of bias do you have to worry about? Any of them. This one is a little tricky. Hopefully we get this one right. And I think it can change me like hockey teams and baseball teams. So sometimes you have to look for like a near question. This one I hope I get. The problem is if I ever answer a question wrong, then the wrong answer goes in my head and I remember doing it wrong and then I'll second guess myself. Math ones are easy because math is math. Let's do this. Okay. They're going to drug test crews are going to show up to all 19 players on the team each testing day to be considered a study of the drug usage. And Major League Baseball player test players to see whether they're using preventing drugs. Officials select a team at random. Yeah, Darius, swing on by. They select a team at random and talk to everyone on that team. I think I know what answer it is here. Which one is it? They select a team and talk to everyone on that team. What does that sound like over here to you? They talk to a team and talk to everyone on that team. Which of these sounds like it? So you got to look at the highlighted portions that are underneath. So the different ways to do it are up here at the top. They talk to a team and they talk to everyone on the team. So the highlighted portions are kind of clues for what the answer might be, like to help you clue in, like if you see kth element or acknowledging a difference. So you might get tricked on this though, but don't worry. They select a team and talk to everyone on that team. That's what I'm trying to accentuate. It's not simple. Good guess right there, Mackenzie. Since they're selecting a team and selecting everyone on the team, it's down here on a cluster. The team is a cluster. Simple random sample would be every single player in the whole league gets a number, and then they just randomly select players, just random players. Systematic would be they sample every 10th player in the MLB. And stratified would be they talk to 4 players from each team. So if they were to stratify, that would be 4 players on each team. This would be everyone on one team. This would be every 5th player in league. This would be 50 random players. Does this help out right here, Mackenzie? Here are examples on the screen of the way they could do it, where they could select just 50 random players from all players. That would be a simple random sample. Here's systematic. They talk to every 5th player in the league from a random starting point technically. They talk to 4 players on each team. They're not taking the full team right here. You're welcome. Yep. And then stratified, because think about each team is relatively the same size, so we don't have to worry about making one group larger or smaller, because I think the teams have rosters. So they take 4 players on each team. They don't take the full teams. They take 4 players on each team. So that would be a stratification technique, which is probably the best way to do it to see if teams are using drugs, like 4 random players on each team. You don't take the 4 easiest players to get, you take 4 random players. And then if you select a full team and talk to everyone on that team, that is a cluster on the team. So especially if you can do this with the examples and try to come up with ways you could do each. Convenience would be talk to the first 10 players who want to talk to you, which was the biased way. That is a cluster sample. Could be wrong, hopefully not. Is this choice appropriate? It is one of these yes answers. I know that from memorization. Entire team could be sampled rather easily, but all players couldn't officially be sampled on the same day. I don't love this answer for the last one, and I did it because of memorization. I don't think the team itself is completely representative. The no answers are not logical. The 19 players tested is not large enough to be representative of all baseball players. It's not that the sample size is not large enough. It is the way they selected it. It's not the size of the sample. The team is selected at random. So, well, if it's selected at random, that's good. So this is counter. The team is selected at random, so it's not representative. No. The cluster was not put together at random, though. Well, Pearson doesn't know baseball. Teams are not random players. Don't put random players on teams. It's not how it works. Yes, the team is not selected at random. See, this is just inherently wrong too. The team is not selected at random, and they literally say officials select a random team. So this is inherently wrong, because if the team is selected at random, it would be representative. Like, you wouldn't say something is random, not representative. You would say it is random, representative. So, but this is inherently wrong because it says it's not selected at random. So these two are just inherently biasedly wrong. And then this is theoretically wrong about the sample sizes. It does make a point that small samples are hard to get good understandings. I think that's the one that's tricked me before. But the truth is that a randomly selecting one team would have biases towards that team's drug usage. That's a better answer right there. So the correct answer is this one. But yeah. Awesome. Should we do? I think we've done a lot of these now. If you look at how much we've completed of this, and we did other ones in other classes, we haven't done all of these in here, which are some of the tougher ones. Here we'll do one of these to end. I'll just show it. So on these questions, I'll do a company packing sugar, and I'm going to show it because we have very little time. A company packing sugar. Sugar. Seen Men in Black. You know what I'm talking about. A company packaging sugar. And they changed this up. With these right here, the key things about these is to understand what a sample is, what a sample frame is, what a population is, and what sampling methods are, and what are possible biases. So when you look at this right here, I'll change up the question. What is the population of interest right here? A company packaging sugar maintains quality control by randomly selecting 10 cases from each day's production and weighing the bags. Then they open 4 random bags, which is going to be their sample from each day, which is the sampling frame, and inspect the contents right there. They don't even say what it is that they're analyzing. So they're trying to understand the bags of the sugar. Once again, that is what they want to understand. So they're analyzing their bags of sugar. What is the parameter of interest? It is kind of unclear because they're just inspecting the contents. The parameter of interest is what they want to understand about the sugar. These are the notes you need to have. Is it clear what they want to understand with the sugar? They're opening it and inspecting it. They didn't say what they're looking for, like how much sugar's in the bag, if there's defects. So the answer is going to be not clear because they didn't really say what it was. What is the sampling frame? Well, they're going for this day and selecting from the 10 cases. So they're selecting 10 cases. They are weighing the bags, so it shows us something about weight over there. Then they open 4 random bags. So it'd be from the 10 cases produced that day would be the sample frame. The sample frame are the things we have access to take our sample from. So when they go to take the 4 bags, they're going to take it from the 10 cases produced that day. And that's where they would get all bags produced on that day, which is in line. I wouldn't have said the bags that pass inspection. The 40 total bags that are open from the selected cases, no, because anything could have been in like the things we select. Because any bag could be in the selected cases. So any bag could be taken this day. This is tricky, I do admit, but any bag could have been in the 10 selected cases because we're selecting from that day's production, which I think I said of the 10 cases we produced that day, but the daily production is the overall sampling frame. A little tricky. What is the sample? This is the 4 bags or whatever, the 40 bags. Oh, because it's 10 cases, 4 from each. Oh, man, so it's 4 times 10. So there we go. That sounds like 4. 4 bags from each of the 10 cases. What is the sampling method? It's a little tricky. So they're going in, it's almost like a simple random sample within a simple random sample because they're taking 10 cases and they're not taking everything. It's kind of like a simple random sample, but there could be stratification. There we go, multi-stage. And I didn't see simple random sample. This would be tricky because it's a stratification within because they're grabbing cases. So they do get a little tricky on this. And I wish they explained it, but they would give away the answer if they say, we are choosing separate cases. We're not taking everything within the case, hence not a cluster. We're treating the cases as differences like this case off this production line, this case off this production line. It does say random, so they're just going to take 10 random cases. Kind of like simple random sample within simple random sample because you're taking 10 random cases and then 4 random bags within the 10 random cases. Oh, it's totally random. Yeah, it's way random. It's way random. No group, since it's random, no group will be left out. No group left out since it's random. And what type? There's no bias. They're just taking random bags. There's no bias. So you really have to see some bias that really shouts out to you on these. There's no bias on that. But overall, who feels a little more confident? These are tricky questions, and I do a lot of them. You can find me videos. You can find videos of me doing any other question. We got through a lot of them right here. We're gonna do some in-person office hours here in a moment. I might eat the sandwich with 5 minutes to go till in-person office hours. I didn't eat my sandwich yet. Till then, bye for everyone. Have a great spring break. If I don't see you, office hours will be starting back up on Monday after spring break. Until then, bye for now. Bye.